Havenport holiday market buzzed with the gentle hum of voices and the occasional burst of laughter, mingling with the soft strains of a violinist playing a classic carol. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the air, catching in the warm glow of string lights that crisscrossed above the cobblestone street. Ella pulled her scarf tighter around her neck, her breath curling in the frosty air as she wandered between stalls. Each booth was a treasure trove of holiday magic, wooden ornaments carved with intricate designs, hand-knit scarves in vibrant patterns, and jars of spiced preserves stacked like tiny gifts. The scents of cinnamon, pine, and roasted chestnuts filled the air, wrapping around Ella like a cozy blanket. She stopped at a vintage booth tucked into the corner of the market. Its sign, Timeless Treasures, was painted in curling gold letters, slightly weathered, but still charming. The table overflowed with trinkets from decades past, a rotary phone, a stack of well-loved books, and tin toys that glinted under the warm light of a hanging lantern. Her eyes landed on a small journal sitting atop a pile of mismatched postcards. The cover was faded pink, its edges worn soft. Peeling stickers of dolphins and rainbows, unmistakably Lisa Frank, decorated its surface, their once bright colors now muted with age. A red ribbon tied the journal shut, a delicate touch that hinted at the care someone had once given it. "That one's been through a lot of love," said the vendor, an older woman bundled in a knitted shawl. Her voice carried a warmth that matched the twinkle in her eye. "Picked it up at an estate sale not far from here. Thought someone might see its charm." Ella reached out and carefully untied the ribbon, her curiosity piqued. Flipping through the pages, she caught glimpses of bubbly handwriting, words dotted with tiny hearts, and occasional sketches of snowmen and Christmas trees. A date at the top of one page caught her eye. December 10th, 1997. "It's a journal?" Ella asked, her voice tinged with wonder. "Looks like it," the vendor replied. "A little slice of someone's life, frozen in time." Ella's mind swirled with questions. Who had owned this? What stories were captured in these pages? She felt an odd pull, as though the journal were inviting her to uncover its secrets. "I'll take it," Ella said, handing over a few bills. The vendor smiled warmly as she tucked the journal into a paper bag. "Enjoy it. Something tells me it'll bring you a bit of magic." Ella walked away, the journal tucked safely in her tote bag. The snow began to fall heavier, dusting the cobblestones and muffling the sounds of the market. As she made her way back to her studio, the warm anticipation of discovery filled her chest. Tonight, she would dive into someone else's Christmas past and see where the journey would take her. Ella's art studio was a haven of warmth against the winter night. The glow of string lights cast a golden hue over the room, illuminating jars of paintbrushes and shelves stacked with half-finished canvases. Snow clung to the window panes, glittering faintly as it melted. The space smelled of pine and cinnamon, thanks to the candle flickering on her desk. She shrugged off her coat and scarf, hanging them on the back of a chair, before pulling the journal from her tote bag. Its soft, worn cover felt familiar in her hands, as though it had always belonged here. Setting it on the wooden table, she untied the red ribbon and carefully opened the first page. The handwriting was playful and full of personality, with large loops and tiny hearts dotting the eyes. Ella traced the ink with her finger, smiling at the youthful exuberance of the words. The first entry began simply. December 1st, 1997. It snowed today, the first real snow of the season. After school, Mom let us stay outside to build a fort. We used all the buckets from the garage to make it look like a castle. Tommy threw a snowball at me, but it missed and hit the dog instead. Oops. Mom made us hot chocolate when we came in, and I drank mine so fast I burned my tongue. Ella closed her eyes, and the world around her seemed to shift. She could almost feel the chill of snowflakes against her cheeks, hear the muffled laughter of kids bundled in puffy coats, and smell the rich chocolate steaming in a mug. The scene unfolded in her mind, vivid and alive, as though she had stepped into Katie's memory. She turned the page, eager to see what came next. The entries flowed like snapshots of a bygone world, each one a treasure trove of nostalgia. Katie's handwriting danced across the pages, describing Christmas preparations with the kind of detail only a child could capture. The tang of tinsel in her hands as she helped decorate the tree, the sticky sweetness of frosting as she decorated cookies, the sound of NSYNC's Christmas album on repeat in the background. Ella smiled to herself, the warm glow of the studio mirroring the glow she felt inside. She had grown up after Katie's time, but the journal's simple joys transcended generations. There was something universal about those holiday traditions, the messy, imperfect beauty of family moments frozen in time. One entry caught her eye. December 10th, 1997. We're going to Havenport for Christmas. Mom says it's like a little winter wonderland. I can't wait to see the lighthouse, but I'm kind of nervous about the snowman competition. Everyone's so good at it, and what if mine looks silly? Dad says it's just for fun, but I don't want to mess it up. Ella's heart tugged at the vulnerability in Katie's words. She could picture the girl, her excitement mingled with worry, imagining the magical haven that Havenport must have seemed through her young eyes. Ella leaned back in her chair, the journal resting open on her lap. The snow outside had slowed, its quiet beauty wrapping the world in stillness. She reached for the mug of cocoa she had made earlier, its warmth spreading through her hands as she took a sip. This wasn't just a journal, Ella realized. It was a portal, a window into someone else's holiday memories, alive with the kind of magic that only came from childhood wonder. She couldn't wait to read more, to see where Katie's story would lead, and how it might bring a touch of that wonder into her own life. The faint hum of a CD player switching tracks filled the room, blending seamlessly with the sound of laughter and the occasional jingle of bells from a nearby decoration. Katie stood on her tiptoes, carefully placing a handmade ornament on the highest branch she could reach. Her family's Christmas tree stood proudly in the corner, its colorful string lights blinking rhythmically like tiny, festive beacons. The smell of fresh pine mingled with the warm, sugary scent of cinnamon candles burning on the mantel. "Katie, be careful. You're going to knock the tree over again," her older brother Tommy teased from the couch. He was sprawled out, clutching a controller, as the muted sounds of a 16-bit video game chirped in the background. "I will not," Katie huffed, placing the ornament with exaggerated precision before hopping down from the chair she'd been using as a makeshift ladder. Her mom bustled in from the kitchen, holding a tray of freshly baked cookies. The edges were slightly burnt, but the smell was heavenly. "Who's ready to help with frosting?" she asked, her voice lilting with the warmth of the season. Katie's hand shot up immediately. "Me!" She darted to the kitchen table, where bowls of frosting in red, green, and white awaited alongside an array of sprinkles, candy canes, and gumdrops. "Don't eat more than you decorate," her mom warned, although her smile betrayed her amusement. The family's favorite holiday album, Mariah Carey's Merry Christmas, crackled to life again, filling the house with the familiar notes of "All I Want for Christmas Is You." Katie sang along with abandon, her voice mixing with the clinking of spoons and the soft crunch of sprinkles being scattered onto cookies. Tommy eventually joined them, sneaking a gumdrop off the table and earning a scolding look from their mom. "It's quality control," he said, popping it into his mouth with a cheeky grin. As they worked, Katie's mind wandered to the upcoming school Christmas party. She pictured the glitter-covered paper snowflakes she and her friends would make, the sugar cookies she would bring from home, and the excitement of exchanging gifts. She had picked out a small snow globe for her best friend Jess, its tiny scene of a snowy village reminding her of the one her mom displayed on the mantle each year. "Katie, you're supposed to put frosting on the cookies, not your nose," Tommy teased, breaking her daydream. Katie wiped at her nose and laughed as she realized she'd somehow managed to get a streak of green frosting across it. The table was soon covered in a joyful mess of decorated cookies, sticky fingers, and laughter. As the family admired their creations, Katie felt the warmth of the moment sink into her heart. Everything felt perfect, like Christmas should, messy, colorful, and full of love. Katie lay sprawled on her bed later that evening, the glow of her fairy lights casting a soft warmth across the room. Her Lisa Frank notebook sat open beside her, covered in doodles of stars and hearts. She chewed the end of her pen thoughtfully before writing. December 10th, 1997. I can't believe we're going to Havenport for Christmas this year. Mom says it's like something out of a storybook, with snow everywhere and a lighthouse that looks like it came from a postcard. But I'm kind of nervous too. Katie stared at the words, her pen hovering over the page. The snowman competition. Her cousins talked about it every year like it was the Olympics of holiday fun. Katie wanted to be excited, but the thought of her lopsided creations made her stomach twist. The last time she built a snowman, its head had toppled off before they could even finish. "It's supposed to be fun," she muttered to herself, mimicking her dad's reassurances. But what if hers looked silly? What if everyone laughed? She rolled onto her back, staring up at the glow in the dark stars scattered across her ceiling. The faint hum of her parents talking downstairs floated through the air, mixing with the sound of the wind whistling against her window. Havenport sounded magical, but the unknown loomed large in her mind, filling her with both excitement and worry. Closing the notebook, Katie picked up her Tamagotchi from the nightstand and checked on it. The tiny, pixelated pet blinked at her, hungry again. She pressed a few buttons, feeding it before tucking it under her pillow for safekeeping. Her mind drifted to other parts of the trip. Mom had mentioned ice skating at the town's outdoor rink and exploring the holiday market with its twinkling lights and homemade crafts. Katie imagined sipping hot cocoa from a little paper cup, her fingers wrapped around the warmth as she wandered past stalls filled with ornaments, scarves, and maybe even toys. The thought made her smile. Maybe the snowman competition wouldn't be so bad after all. If nothing else, she could make one that was silly on purpose, a snowman with crooked stick arms and a hat that didn't quite fit. The idea sparked a small bubble of confidence, and she hugged it close as she drifted off to sleep. Back in the present, Ella closed the journal and leaned back in her chair, a wistful smile on her lips. She could feel Katie's nervous energy, the way childhood worries mixed with the magic of the season. The snow outside her studio window swirled gently under the glow of the streetlights, as if echoing the sense of anticipation woven through the journal. Havenport, Ella murmured to herself. She had lived here for years, but seeing it through Katie's eyes gave it a fresh sense of wonder. And the snowman competition. She couldn't help but wonder how Katie's had turned out, The car crunched along the snowy road as Katie pressed her face against the frosty window. Her breath fogged the glass, and she used her mittened hand to clear it, eager to catch another glimpse of the snow-draped trees whizzing by. The sky was a soft gray, heavy with clouds that promised more snow, and the landscape felt like it had been pulled straight from one of the Christmas cards her mom displayed on the mantel. "Almost there," her dad said from the driver's seat, his voice filled with cheer. Katie's mom turned to look at her, a warm smile lighting up her face. "You're going to love it, Katie," she said. "Havenport is beautiful this time of year." As they rounded the final bend, the quaint town came into view, nestled in a blanket of snow. Katie gasped, her eyes widening as she took in the scene. Tiny shops with colorful awnings lined the main street, their windows glowing with golden light. Strings of twinkling bulbs crisscrossed above the road, and wreaths adorned every lamppost. At the center of it all stood a towering Christmas tree, its branches heavy with ornaments and glittering tinsel. "It's like a movie," Katie whispered, her voice filled with awe. Her dad pulled the car into the small parking lot of the Havenport Inn, a charming building with a shingled roof and a wide front porch wrapped in garlands. A bell jingled as they stepped inside, the warmth of the lobby enveloping them immediately. The air smelled of pine and cinnamon, and a fire crackled merrily in the stone hearth. "Welcome to Havenport," the innkeeper said, a rosy-cheeked woman with a bright smile. She handed Katie a candy cane and showed them to their room, a cozy suite with a window overlooking the snowy street below. Later, bundled in her thickest coat and scarf, Katie walked hand in hand with her parents through the holiday market. The stalls were filled with treasures, hand-knit scarves, carved wooden ornaments, and jars of spiced jam. Katie's mom bought a tin of roasted chestnuts, the warm, nutty smell wafting through the crisp air as they nibbled them together. "Look at this," her dad said, pointing to a booth displaying miniature lighthouses made of driftwood and seashells. Katie leaned in closer, marveling at the tiny details. The painted windows, the tiny wreaths adorning the doors. "Do you think the real lighthouse looks like this?" Katie asked, clutching her candy cane as she stared at the miniature. "Only one way to find out," her dad replied with a wink. "We'll visit it tomorrow." The idea filled Katie with excitement, pushing aside some of her nerves about the snowman competition. The magic of Havenport wrapped around her like a warm blanket, and she let herself get lost in the joy of the moment, the glow of the lights, the music drifting through the air, and the feeling that this was a place where anything was possible. As the night wore on, snow began to fall again, soft and silent, blanketing the town in an even deeper sense of peace. Katie held her parents' hands tightly, feeling safe and warm, her heart full of wonder as they made their way back to the inn. Tomorrow, she thought, would be another adventure, and maybe, just maybe, she'd be ready for the challenge ahead. The next morning, Katie woke to the soft glow of sunlight reflecting off the fresh snow. She pressed her nose against the frosty window, watching as a few early risers trudged through the snowy streets, leaving faint footprints behind. In the distance, she could see the lighthouse her dad had promised they'd visit later, its white and red tower standing proudly against the wintry sky. "Time to bundle up, Snow Angel," her mom said as she poked her head into the room. "We've got a snowman competition to win." Katie's stomach twisted with a mix of excitement and nerves as she pulled on her snow pants, puffy coat, and thick mittens. By the time they reached the town square, families were already scattered across the open field, hard at work rolling giant snowballs and stacking them into snowmen of all shapes and sizes. The air buzzed with laughter and friendly competition. Her cousins, Sam and Emily, waved her over enthusiastically. "Katie, you're on carrot duty," Sam declared, handing her a small basket of noses and buttons. "What are we building?" Katie asked, her voice muffled by the scarf wrapped around her face. "A snow knight," Emily said proudly, pointing to the half-formed base. "We're giving him a shield and everything." Katie's eyes widened. A knight? She wasn't sure her snowman skills were up to the task, but the enthusiasm of her cousins was contagious. Together, they worked as a team, rolling snow until their hands were sore and shaping it into a sturdy figure. Sam packed the snow tightly while Emily sculpted the arms, and Katie carefully pressed coal buttons down the front and wedged a crooked carrot into place. "He needs a face," Katie said, stepping back to examine their creation. "Here," Emily said, handing her two shiny, mismatched buttons. Katie leaned in, pressing them gently into the snowman's head. One eye was slightly higher than the other, giving the knight a lopsided, goofy expression. "Perfect," Sam said, tying a plaid scarf around the snowman's neck. Emily added a makeshift sword fashioned from a sturdy branch, and their dad placed an upside-down pail on its head for a helmet. "He looks brave?" Katie offered, tilting her head as she studied their work. Her dad chuckled, clapping her on the shoulder. "He looks perfect. Every knight needs a bit of character." As the judges wandered through the field, Katie's nerves bubbled up again. Her cousins were laughing and tossing snow at each other, but she couldn't stop staring at their snowman, wondering if it was good enough. When the judges finally approached, one of them, a woman in a red coat with a kind smile, bent down to study their creation. "A snow knight. How clever," she said, jotting notes on her clipboard. "I love his expression. He's got so much personality." Katie's cheeks burned, but she smiled. Maybe their knight wasn't the most perfect snowman, but he was definitely unique. Later, as they sipped hot cocoa at the inn and compared stories from the day, Katie felt a sense of pride blooming in her chest. The snowman competition hadn't been as scary as she thought. In fact, it had been fun. She couldn't wait to tell Jess all about it when she got back to school. That night, she scribbled in her journal by the glow of the bedside lamp. "The snowman competition was amazing. Our knight looked so silly, but also kind of cool. The judges said he had personality. Dad was proud, and that made me feel proud too. I think I'll always remember today." As the words dried on the page, Katie placed her journal on the nightstand and drifted off to sleep, her heart full of the kind of joy that only a winter's day could bring. The golden light of mid-morning streamed through the studio windows, reflecting off jars of paintbrushes and casting warm patterns across Ella's desk. The journal lay open beside her, its pages faintly curling at the edges. Ella traced her fingers over the bubbly handwriting, rereading Katie's entry about the snowman competition and the warmth she felt from her family's encouragement. It was impossible not to smile. Ella turned to her easel, where a blank canvas awaited. The journal's vivid descriptions had sparked an idea she couldn't shake. She wanted to paint a mural inspired by 1997 Havenport, a window into the past that captured the magic Katie had described. It would be a celebration of childhood wonder and the timeless spirit of the holidays. She started with broad strokes of icy blue and soft white, layering shades to create a snowy landscape. The familiar lighthouse rose in the background, its red and white stripes standing tall against a cloudy winter sky. In the foreground, she began sketching the bustling holiday market Katie had described. The glowing strings of lights, the stalls brimming with treasures, and families bundled in puffy coats as they laughed and sipped hot cocoa. Her brush moved instinctively, drawing on Katie's words to fill the canvas with details. A little girl clutching a candy cane, a table covered in knitted scarves, and the warm glow of a fire pit where people gathered to warm their hands. She added a whimsical snowman off to the side, its crooked smile and makeshift hat a nod to Katie's snow night. As Ella worked, the studio came alive with the quiet energy of creativity. The faint scent of pine from her candle mingled with the earthy aroma of paint, grounding her in the moment. Outside, snow began to fall again, the flakes drifting lazily past the window and adding to the cozy atmosphere. She paused to step back and assess her progress. The mural was coming together beautifully, but something was missing. Her eyes fell on the journal, still open to the entry about the snowman competition. Katie's excitement and pride leapt off the page, and Ella realized what she needed to add. A sense of motion, of life. Returning to the canvas, she added small touches that brought the scene to life. A dog leaping through the snow, a child tossing a snowball, and the faint impression of footprints crisscrossing the street. With each stroke, she felt more connected to the story, as though she were channeling Katie's memories into her work. By the time the sun dipped low in the sky, Ella's arms ached and her cheeks were flushed from concentration. She set her brush down and stepped back, taking in the mural with a satisfied sigh. It felt alive, a perfect blend of Havenport's charm and the magic of Katie's 1997 Christmas. Ella glanced at the journal again, her heart swelling with a mix of gratitude and curiosity. What other memories waited within its pages? And how could she honor the life captured in its words? For now, though, she was content to let the mural speak, a tribute to the little girl whose world had inspired it all. The mural was nearly complete, and Ella couldn't help but feel a deep sense of connection to Katie's memories. Each brushstroke had brought her closer to the little girl's world, but something gnawed at her. The journal, with all its vivid stories, belonged to someone who might not even know it had survived all these years. Ella pulled the journal close and flipped to the back pages. There, tucked between two entries, she found a small note written in hurried handwriting. To whoever finds this, my name is Katie, and I lost this journal in Havenport during our Christmas trip. It's really special to me. If you ever find it, please leave it at the Havenport Inn. Thank you. Ella's heart skipped a beat. The journal had stayed in Havenport all this time, yet Katie had likely moved on, assuming it was lost forever. The thought filled her with a mix of excitement and resolve. Maybe, just maybe, she could return it to its rightful owner. She snapped a picture of the note and shared it on her personal social media accounts with a short caption. Found this incredible journal from 1997 at the holiday market. It's filled with Christmas memories from someone named Katie. I'd love to find her and return it. Please share if you can. Havenport, Christmas, lost and found. Ella's phone buzzed with notifications almost immediately. Friends and locals began sharing the post, adding their own comments about the mural and their curiosity about Katie. One message stood out from the rest. It was from Mrs. Thompson, the librarian who had always been the unofficial historian of Havenport. Ella, this is such a wonderful story. I might have some old records that could help. Stop by the library tomorrow. Encouraged by the response, Ella decided to expand her search. She created a flyer with an image of the journal and posted it around Havenport, on the bulletin board at Sam's Bakery, in the window of Ivy's tea shop, and even near the holiday market where she'd found it. Each flyer carried the same message. Looking for Katie. If you or someone you know lost a journal in Havenport in 1997, please reach out to Ella at the studio. I think I've found something special that belongs to you. That evening, Ella sat by her studio window, sipping tea and watching the snow fall. Her phone buzzed occasionally with messages of support, but there was still no word from Katie. The streets of Havenport were quiet now, the twinkling lights reflecting off the snow-covered ground. Ella couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something magical, a bridge between the past and present, waiting to be crossed. She glanced back at the mural, its vibrant colors glowing in the soft lamplight. Tomorrow, she'd visit Mrs. Thompson and continue her search. For now, though, she allowed herself to dream about what it would mean to reunite Katie with her memories and to discover how the story ended. The next morning, Ella bundled up against the chill and headed to Havenport's library, the journal tucked safely in her bag. Snow crunched under her boots as she walked through the quiet streets, the town still waking up under the soft light of a cloudy winter sky. Mrs. Thompson greeted Ella warmly when she stepped inside. The library smelled faintly of aged paper and pine, a small Christmas tree adorned with handmade ornaments twinkling in the corner. "Ella, dear, come in. Let's see this journal you've been talking about," Mrs. Thompson said, motioning her toward a cozy reading nook by the fire. Her British accent lent an extra air of authority to her already formidable librarian presence. Ella handed over the journal, watching as Mrs. Thompson flipped through its pages with a careful hand. Her face lit up as she read the note Katie had written. "I do remember a family staying at the Havenport Inn around Christmas in the late 90s, she said, tapping her chin. "They were visitors, not locals, but I believe they came a few times. I might even have a record of them signing the guest book." Ella's heart leapt. "Really? That would be amazing." Mrs. Thompson disappeared behind the counter, reappearing moments later with a dusty logbook from the inn. She flipped through the pages, her finger tracing the names. Finally, she paused, her eyes lighting up. Here it is. December 1997, a family named Parker. They left a note thanking the innkeeper for a lovely stay and mentioning their daughter, Katie. Looks like they're from Michigan. Ella snapped a picture of the entry with her phone, feeling a spark of hope. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. This is a huge help." Armed with the new information, Ella returned to her studio and updated her social media post. Update: I've learned the journal's owner was part of the Parker family who visited Havenport in December 1997. They were from Michigan. If anyone has connections or more information, please let me know. Let's find Katie. Shas Havenport Christmas. The post gained even more traction, with comments and shares flooding in from locals and beyond. Later that afternoon, a message arrived in Ella's inbox. It was from a woman named Lisa who wrote, "Hi Ella, I think I might know Katie Parker. She's my childhood best friend, and I remember her family visiting Havenport when we were kids. She lives in Michigan now with her own family. I can reach out to her if you'd like." Ella's heart raced as she quickly typed back, "Yes, please. Let her know I have something special of hers and would love to connect." Hours later, another message arrived, this time from Katie herself. The subject line read, "You found my journal?" Ella clicked it open, her hands trembling slightly as she read, "Hi, Ella. Lisa just told me about your post, and I can't believe it. I thought that journal was gone forever. It's filled with some of my favorite memories. Thank you so much for holding on to it. I'd love to come to Havenport to pick it up." Ella's cheeks hurt from smiling. She wrote back immediately, arranging a time for Katie to visit. As she hit send, a warm glow spread through her chest. After weeks of searching, the pieces were finally coming together. Soon, the journal would be back in Katie's hands, and Ella couldn't wait to see the story come full circle. Ella's studio buzzed with quiet anticipation as she prepared for Katie's arrival. The journal sat prominently on the table, its worn cover a testament to the years it had traveled before finding its way back to Havenport. Outside, the snow had begun to fall softly again, coating the town in a fresh blanket of white. The soft chime of the studio doorbell broke the silence. Ella looked up to see a woman stepping inside, bundled in a long coat and scarf, her cheeks pink from the cold. She held the hand of a young girl with bright eyes and rosy cheeks, clutching a small stuffed bear. "Ella?" the woman asked, her voice warm and familiar. "Katie," Ella replied with a smile, crossing the room to greet her. "It's so nice to meet you in person." Katie's eyes immediately went to the journal on the table. She approached it slowly, her hand hovering over the cover, before gently picking it up. For a moment, she said nothing, simply running her fingers over the familiar stickers and flipping through the pages. "I can't believe this," she said softly, her voice tinged with emotion. "I thought this was lost forever. These memories, they mean so much to me." Ella watched as Katie turned to the entry about the snowman competition, a fond smile spreading across her face. "I remember this day so clearly," Katie said, glancing down at her daughter. "We built a snow knight. It was the silliest thing, but my dad thought it was the best snowman ever. That day gave me the confidence to try new things." The little girl tugged at her mom's hand. "Did you win, Mommy?" she asked. Katie laughed. "No, sweetie, but we had so much fun that it didn't matter." She crouched down to her daughter's level, showing her the page. "This is my snowman. Maybe we can build one like it this year." Ella's heart warmed at the exchange. "I'm so glad it found its way back to you. It's clear how much these memories mean." Katie looked up, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. "Thank you for taking such care with it, Ella. And this studio?" She glanced around, her eyes landing on the mural. "Oh my gosh, is this Havenport?" Ella nodded. "It's inspired by your descriptions in the journal. I wanted to capture the magic of how you saw it in 1997. Katie walked closer to the mural, her daughter trailing behind. She studied the lighthouse, the bustling market, and the whimsical snowman with its crooked grin. "It's perfect," she said softly. "You brought it all to life. I never imagined something so personal could inspire something so beautiful." The two women spent the afternoon sharing stories. Katie talked about her life since that trip, how the snowman competition became a cherished family memory, and how those small moments of encouragement shaped her into who she was. She told Ella about her career as a children's book illustrator, showing sketches of characters she'd created, some of which were clearly inspired by the Snow Knight. As the sun began to set, Katie turned to Ella. "I'd love to bring my daughter back here every Christmas. This town, it's even more magical than I remember." "You'll always be welcome here," Ella said with a smile. Katie hugged her tightly before leaving, the journal clutched to her chest. As Ella watched them disappear into the softly falling snow, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journal had found its way home, but it had also built a bridge between past and present, creating new connections and memories. Ella glanced at the mural one last time, its colors glowing in the fading light. The story wasn't just about what had been lost and found. It was about how even the smallest moments, a journal, a snowman, a memory, could ripple through time and bring people closer together. The following Christmas season, Havenport sparkled even brighter than before. Snow fell softly on the cobblestone streets, the light strung above the town square reflecting off the freshly fallen drifts. Ella's mural had become a centerpiece of the community, drawing visitors who marveled at its warm depiction of a 1997 Christmas in Havenport. Katie had kept her promise. She arrived with her husband and daughter a week before Christmas, bundled against the cold as they strolled through the market together. This time, Katie wasn't just revisiting childhood memories. She was creating new ones with her family. Ella spotted her first by the cider stand. Katie's daughter, Lily, tugged at her hand excitedly, pointing to a stall selling wooden ornaments. Ella waved and crossed the snowy square to meet them, her heart swelling at the sight of Lily holding a tiny carved snowman in her mittened hands. "You made it," Ella said, embracing Katie warmly. "How does it feel to be back?" "It's even better than I remembered," Katie said, her eyes shining. "And Lily's already obsessed with the snowmen. I think we'll have to make at least 3 before we leave." "You have to enter the competition tomorrow," Ella said with a grin. "It's tradition now." Katie laughed. "We wouldn't miss it." Later that evening, Ella hosted a small gathering at her studio for the families visiting Havenport. The space glowed with candlelight and the warmth of the fireplace, the scent of pine and cinnamon filling the air. The mural served as a backdrop, and Katie couldn't help but marvel at how perfectly Ella had captured her memories. "It feels like stepping back in time," Katie said, running her fingers over the painted snowman. "But what I love most is how you've made it belong to everyone." "That was the goal," Ella said. "It's your story, but it's also Havenport's story, and now it's part of something bigger." Lily ran over, clutching her ornament. "Can we hang this on the tree at home, Mommy?" she asked. Katie knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "Of course we can, sweetie, and we'll tell everyone about how we found it here in Havenport." Ella watched the exchange with a smile. Seeing Katie's joy and Lily's excitement made all the effort worth it. The journal hadn't just brought Katie back to Havenport. It had helped create a new chapter, one filled with traditions that would carry on for years to come. As the last of the holiday visitors trickled out of Ella's studio, the quiet hum of the room settled into a comforting stillness. Snow continued to fall outside, muffling the sounds of Havenport streets and wrapping the town in a peaceful hush. Ella leaned against the edge of the mural, her arms crossed, a soft smile lingering on her lips as she reflected on the day. Katie and her family had left a short while ago, their laughter still echoing in Ella's ears. The sight of Katie holding her daughter's hand, pointing out the details in the mural, had stirred something deep in Ella's heart. It wasn't just a story from the past anymore. It was a bridge connecting generations, each memory inspiring the next. Ella turned back to the mural, studying its vibrant colors and the scenes that had been drawn from Katie's journal. The snow-covered lighthouse, the bustling market, and the playful snowman all seemed to glow in the soft light of the studio. She traced the painted outline of the snow knight, its crooked hat and cheerful grin standing proudly among the other details. It was more than art, she realized. It was a tapestry of connection, between past and present, between strangers and friends, between childhood dreams and adult realities. It was a reminder of how small, joyful moments could ripple through time, leaving warmth and wonder in their wake. Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Katie. "Thank you, Ella, for everything. Lily hasn't stopped talking about the snow night, and I haven't felt this connected to my childhood in years. We'll be back next Christmas. That's a promise." Ella smiled as she set the phone down, her heart swelling with gratitude. Katie's story had started as a lost journal, but it had become so much more. It had rekindled a sense of wonder, not just for Katie and her family, but for the entire community of Havenport. Outside, the town lights shimmered through the falling snow, casting a golden glow over the cobblestones. Ella stepped to the window, watching as the flakes swirled and danced in the light. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear faint laughter and the faint jingle of bells, sounds of a town alive with joy. Ella knew this was just the beginning. The mural would stand as a beacon, a reminder of the magic that could be found in the simplest of moments. And as she turned off the lights and locked the studio door, she felt a quiet certainty that Havenport's story, and Katie's, would continue to grow, one memory at a time.